Hey, welcome to Tank Talk. I'm your host, Bob Tankard, and this evening's guest is none other than Alyson Williams, a recording star and an actress here on the Vineyard just before the end of the summer. Well, you know, Alyson, I'm going to say the summer doesn't end here anymore until after Columbus Day. You know, when I grew up, Labor Day at 5 o'clock, the streets were bare, like
Wow.
nobody ever lived there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But up until that 5 o'clock, there was a lot of people around. Now, it doesn't make a difference. People
They're
are still
here. They're here. And I can see why. It's a wonderful place
to be. It's a great
to be.
place. Tell us about Alyson.
Well, Alyson Williams is born and raised in Harlem.
Harlem?
I'm a New Yorker.
Okay.
I now make my home in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Okay.
But Harlem is home. And I grew up surrounded with music. My father was a jazz trumpet player and a big band leader. He had a 17-piece band. His name was Bobby Booker.
Okay.
And so that was my introduction to music.
Well, let me ask you
was
something.
jazz.
When would that have been? And how many, in the years, was it in the 20s or 30s?
My father's
40s?
band was one of the premier society bands in the 80s.
Okay.
Obviously, it's late 70s into the 80s.
Okay.
And I say that because that is when I know that I was able to be a part of it.
Okay.
You know, as a kid, obviously going to the rehearsals and what have you.
Right.
I mean, that he had a band when I came into the world. And I was born in that year.
Okay.
So, folks will have to come to the show tonight to find out how old I am.
Okay.
When I came up, that was the music I came up on.
Mm-hmm.
But his reign per se was all throughout the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
They played all of the different society gigs and
Right.
Political events and private events and
right.
stuff. And I grew up, like I said, listening to that music. He had incredible musicians that all had other jobs with the Duke Ellington Orchestra, the Count Basie Band. But when they came back home, they had their chair in his band in Harlem because he was based out of Harlem.
You know, an amazing thing you said. The reason why I answered that question, my mother was a dancer.
Okay.
But her mother was a big-time dancer in vaudeville at the time. And my aunts were also features on the billboards.
Wow.
And my grandmother, was my mom's mom, they used to dance with Josephine Baker.
Wow.
And my mother says she remembers when she was probably 7 or 8 years old, going backstage with her mother and meeting Josephine Baker. And she remembers my mother, Josephine Baker, telling my grandmother that in order for her to make it, she had to go to Europe.
Sure.
And we knew that when she went to Europe, she became a huge star. You know what I mean? But my mom says during that time, you mentioned Duke Ellington and
Count Basie.
Count
and all
Basie.
those.
My grandmother and them used to go to used to be after-hour parties where all these people would be and play their music and whatnot, and all the African-American stars and people in the entertainment business would go to those parties. Does that still happen with your dad?
Yeah. There were a lot of there was always something going on. Obviously, there were a lot of things I couldn't attend because I was just a kid.
Right.
And my dad and my mom, I had what they would say older parents.
Right.
My mother was almost 40 when she had me, and he was 20 years older than her. I was like, I don't know what y'all were doing. I was starting my business. Thank you for bringing me here, but whatever. but so there was a lot of how can I say, a lot of their lifestyle, you know what I'm saying, and what have you, had been well established and so on and so forth. So yes, I can remember when you think about dancers and stuff, my father was good friends with Honey Coles.
Okay.
And there were other dancers like Miss Juanita Boisseau.
Right.
And there was a couple of other ladies, tappers, that were great. And I remember growing up knowing who Peg Leg Bates was.
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
of these, and Slide Hampton.
Right.
So these were folks who were already well established in their careers, but I'm just a kid watching them. The beauty of it was to go and be able to look in a book at school and see these names.
Right, and know
see
them.
Louis Armstrong, see Clark Terry, see these
right.
people and go, wait a minute, they were at the house last
Right,
week.
right.
Or that's my father's, they play numbers together. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was all of those experiences. So, you know, and he had, like I said, great players in the band. Sometime Earl Father Hines would come and sit in. You know, so it was like that.
But how did you get? You know, you think about it, and you're the daughter of this great musician, and I'm saying to myself, do you have brothers and sisters?
I have one sister.
Okay, how did you get involved, and when did you decide or thought about becoming an actress, a singer, a musician, and taking part in this? When did that take place in your life?
Immediately. I mean, from the
Really?
time I came, look, my mother would tell a story. She's rest her soul. She would say, they'd say, so Miss Williams, when did you know she was going to be a singer? Well, you know, when she was born, the doctor hit her on her bottom, and that was her first note. Because my mother was very theatrical as well. So I was like, Ma, really, the soundbite? and the minute she would start off, I'd just go, oh, God, they don't know what they've gotten themselves into. But because of the fact that my parents had to work, my father had a day job as well as, you know, his music.
Right.
So I had to be wherever I needed to be.
Okay.
So if I was not with my grandmother, but my nana, who was the daytime caregiver, then I was with my dad. And when I went to school, for the first year, I had gone to a private school.
Right.
And that school closed.
Okay.
So they said, well, she's not going to public school. We'll send her to the Catholic school.
Okay.
But I was too young to start. So for a year, I drove taxi with my dad every day.
Oh.
And went to the rehearsal at night and so
Right.
on and so forth. So music was there. There was the radio was on. He was playing music. He would practice in the day. I was there. They looked for and gave me all of the extracurricular activities like dance and
So you went to
theater
dance
and all
classes
that.
and all
Oh,
that?
I was a scholarship student with Dance Theater of Harlem. I started with
Wow.
Arthur Mitchell when I was about 4.
Wow.
And then he shut down for a minute until he built the brick and mortar
Right.
place that we now know as Dance Theater of Harlem, but I was with him at Church of the Masters. So immediately we came into the world and said, she sings, she dances, look, take her. And I just I had a love for it.
What was your first, when you talk about that, what was your first performance or your first entrance on stage into the business? How old were you and what stage was it?
I think
Either in the acting part or the musical.
Okay, I'm gonna give you the Cliff Notes version. I performed with a dance company called the Ruth Williams Dance School. That's one of the places I went.
Is
I
that
studied
out
of Harlem?
Harlem School of Harlem Music?
She had her own studios up in the Teresa Hotel in Harlem.
Okay.
And she taught hundreds and thousands of people's children how to dance. And every year they had a big recital at Lincoln Center. So my first performances were on stages like Lincoln Center. Yes, there were 25 other kids and we all doing our little dance and what have you. But I can remember being told about they used to sell raffles and tickets and do pageants.
Right.
And, you'd buy there'd be a program book.
Right.
You'd buy a silver page or a gold page. And everybody in the family and your parents' friends would participate to make sure that you could be in the running for a winner and so on and so forth. So I was actually in, and I want to say it might have been the Masons or the Eastern Stars or something. They had this pageant, and I think I was 3 or 4 years old. And and they got me up there, and my mother tells this story that I didn't win, but when I didn't win, somebody must have asked me what it was or how I felt or whatever the case may be was, to check my feelings, and my response was, well, you can't win them all. And when the lady who ran it heard me say that, they made a special prize for me. Because they were like, this kid really has a great attitude, and I wasn't crying, and I didn't feel bad because I didn't win. It's like, you can't win them all. And
When did you get into the singing?
I always sang. I sang.
But you sang, but when did it become professional?
I started singing with my dad's big band.
Really?
Yes, I was learning the Great American Songbook when my other friends were singing His Eyes on the Sparrow. I was like a jazz kid. And pretty much the geek or the nerd of my circle, because they were all the Jackson 5, and of course, I knew that music, but my music was jazz music because that's what I was surrounded by. Then even though we played an eclectic mix at the house, jazz was still, it was my music of preference because I had fallen in love with it.
As a young-
complete as a young person,
young girl.
So obviously coming into the R&B and then learning about gospel and then all these other genres. But I was singing with my dad's band. I'm sure from the time I was 12 or 14 years old, they would feature me. So by the time I was 16, now I'm ready to branch out. So my father used to also give. He used to give these wonderful bus rides down to South Jersey. And, they take a whole 2 bus loads of people, the whole band. He had a DJ. He had a young band as well. Right. So they would set up in some big ballroom, and they'd have this big thing, and everybody would dress up, and they'd bring their little food or liquor or whatever, and you'd buy a setup. And have a party.
You performed just like that.
And then he'd hire, like I said, a Peg Leg Bates. He'd have a lady blues singer, a male blues singer. They'd do that whole big band thing. Then in between, they would obviously have the DJ, and then they had a young band. So this young band that he had discovered was about 5 or 6 young men up in the Bronx.
Right.
The name of the group was called the Little Dudes.
Okay.
And my father's landlord or building manager, he was their manager.
Okay.
He was the uncle of one of them. So he started bringing the kids so that the young people would have something to dance to and so on and so forth. So one day they had a singer. Her name was Pat. She was much older, but she knew all the top 40 material, and she could really perform. And like I said, the guys were young, but they were really good. And she got pregnant. So they were going to be looking for a singer, and I decided I'm going to audition for the band, but I couldn't tell my father because he wasn't having me be with this little local band of young guys because it was about them being guys. But I went on and I auditioned, and they were like, Mr. Booker, we'd love to have her sing. So he said, as long as y'all do it right, I'm watching you.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
You're his baby, man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
This is my daughter. Don't make me have to make y'all a trio.
Exactly, right.
So I went on and started performing with them, and we did all of the Chitlin Circuit clubs, especially in the Bronx, because that's where they were
How far did you go? How far out did you go? You probably went to Jersey and New York and
we did Tarrytown. We used to do upstate New York and Connecticut. We did New Rochelle, all that, all the upper Bronx and what have you, and then some parts of Harlem.
Okay.
And then when I left that band and started, meeting other musicians and stuff, then we started doing the Harlem circuit.
Okay.
And then from there we did the Upper West Side circuit, which was like McKell's and the Cellar and Honeysuckles and Sweetwaters. Then from there it was time to do the Village. And after we did, next thing you know, we were running from the Village to the Bronx.
You know one thing, you're sitting here, you're telling me this, right?
So much stuff.
You're sitting telling me, and I'm saying to myself, she's done all this entertaining in all these different places, and you haven't, and you're not even out of New York yet. All the different places. We talk about Harlem and the Bronx and Upstate and this, that, and the other. And, I didn't realize, but when you start looking back at some of the old actors and the old musicians, they did the same thing. They played the Harlems and
well, because we had the ability, the opportunity was there. There were so many venues. There were venues that kept you working almost every night of the week. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's how music was done. That's how theater was done. Do you know what I'm saying? And you found opportunities that would allow you to sometimes double dip. We might have had a gig down at the Village Gate and at Sweetwaters.
Wow.
Or do something at Sweetwaters, and then late night we're up at Arthur's Round Table in the Bronx. And don't let me get on the after hour spots, because sometimes you get off at 3 or 4 in the morning and go play somewhere for a few hours.
No.
And look, folks would be up in the you would think it would be because it was broad daylight outside, but it was going on, and that's how it went.
How did you get into the acting part of it?
Well, the acting came through my school, in high school, various things that I participated in, mostly high school and community things. But then when I went to college, I had a chance to actually study and study under a teacher that taught the Uta Hagen method. And so I always knew I wanted to do it, but to actually get involved in it.
Was it difficult for you, being African American and a woman at that time, to get parts?
I would say it was difficult, but I didn't know it was called difficulty. I thought that was just the struggle, and it was. You had to work for it. And what I realized as I got established in my career, my friends, we'd all sit around on the floor. Remember when we used to sit on the floor?
Yeah.
Sit on the floor, eating out of our bags, and doing what we do, and we would be speaking into our dreams and speaking into the things that we wanted to do, and we really were basically already doing them. We just didn't. We were looking at other people who maybe had television exposure or concert opportunities, so we looked at that as being the pinnacle. That's where we were trying to get to go, but we didn't realize we had gigs. We were doing it.
Right.
We really were
Right.
hitting it, and then all we did was just go bigger and better. People began to start getting Broadway plays, and then they started getting soap operas, and they started getting television roles and film roles, and so on and so forth. So that's, you don't always realize the blessing. But I've traveled the world because of what I do. I've been around the world 4 times.
You enjoy it?
Oh gosh, I wouldn't do anything else. I wouldn't do anything else.
Now tell me something. You're at the Vineyard. You're going to be at Union Chapel.
That's right.
How did that take place? How did that happen? Now, I shouldn't say how did it happen, because I know, I can remember when the African American artists came, when they first started coming, and they were a little organization, and they were out of the Mansion House and whatnot. Now, when they come, they take the whole Performing Arts Center at the high school, and it's a tremendous setup. And it has nothing but boasted people coming to the Vineyard. You find all sorts of actors, actresses, politicians, everything coming to see that, right? So now when you come, it's not surprising to me, but I'm saying to myself, what led you here? Tell me, it had to be something that led a person like you to come to the Vineyard and want to perform at Union Chapel.
Well, I always wanted to come here because I had older cousins that used to come here, and this was their thing that they did. They couldn't wait to get out of school or whatever they were doing, and they would come here, and they had friends that lived here year-round, and this was the place to come. One of the things that I did in my early years, I interned for the Commodores, and the Commodores manager,
they used to come
Benny
here.
Ashburn,
Benny Ashburn
who
was
discovered
here.
them. His sister was Liz White. Of
Mrs.
Shara
White,
College.
Miss Shara College.
Of College.
Right.
So I had all of this information. I just had never, I was already in that mix. I just had never experienced it because, like I said, my cousins were 10 years older than I am. Sometimes they would
the Commodores used to come. I can remember, I was friends of Joanne Walker at the time.
Absolutely.
And they used to come. I remember Lionel Richie, and my sister had a party at her house, and the whole group of them came over.
Wow.
And they were just starting out and young. They used to sing on the beach at the Inkwell. And they used to sing at State Beach, you know what I mean? And it was so funny. My youngest sister went on a date with Lionel, when he was here. But it was, I said to myself, I can remember what you just said.
Right. And I would, like I said, all of these folks had a little bit, like 10 years over me.
Right.
So I couldn't always be in the mix, but I was getting this. And then, like I said, as an adult or young adult, coming into that whole Benny Ashburn Commodore country thing, then it led me back to, at any rate, I started coming here. I'm sure that I got here the first time in the early 2000s, which seems late in life, considering all that I knew about and all that I had done. But
because
I came
many
here,
of the historical people by 2000.
Sure,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean? It was like, I can remember at the end of the summer, we used to do a program. I used to do a tank talk with a guy named Alton Hardaway at the Inkwell. And what we did was we talked to the elder statesmen, and asked, and started with them and worked our way up to the younger generation and asked them, how did the Inkwell or the Vineyard or the people, everything, enhance them? And the amazing thing, the stories were unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Alyson, it was unbelievable. And when I talked to the elder statesmen and saw the struggles and stuff that they went through, and then how they paved the way for each generation, it was. And so now when I see people like you come to the Vineyard, I can see why.
Yeah. When I first came, like I said, I don't even think it was for a performance. I can't remember exactly how I got up here, but I was reconnected with my cousins friends, you know, that whole
Right.
crew of people who, like I said, had been doing it and doing it well years and years and years. But then I did meet Sheila Baptiste.
Right.
Sheila Baptiste is the producer. Her company is called Lewis and Kirk,
Right.
and they've been doing it for over a decade. When I was introduced to her, she invited me to come up,
Okay.
and this was, I guess, might have been the early teens of the 2016 or 15
Okay.
or something like that. So I have done it twice.
Have you performed here before?
I've performed here before, twice, I believe, with this particular Summerfest.
Where did you perform
And then I
before?
performed
At the same place?
Union
Or-
Chapel, and then there's another place. It might be in Edgartown, and it's a big, round, beautiful, outdoor venue, and I can't remember the name of
Wait a
it.
minute, is it the Tabernacle?
The Tabernacle.
Okay, that's
I
no
performed
plus.
at the Tabernacle,
Right.
and that was a fundraiser for a friend of mine that
Okay.
that lives here in Aquina. His name is Alan Slattis.
Okay.
And Alan had a daughter whose challenge was with a substance abuse
Okay.
and suicide.
Right.
And he set up a trust fund and a scholarship and a nonprofit in her name. And he had me come along with Deborah Cox, and we
Right.
did this wonderful thing. Some other folks from New York, from down at the Sugar Bar, came up, and we did a wonderful thing at the Tabernacle. And then I said, like I said, this with Lewis and Kirk, twice I've done this. And like I said, once I started coming, my visits here became necessary. Not just to perform, but I had to come here for my spirit.
You know one thing, and I was going to ask you that question because more people in your profession, actors and singers, have come and just let their hair down.
Yeah.
And they're able to walk down the street and not have anybody pull at them or anything else. And I tell you a story. I used to own way back. It had to be. It was in the '80s, early '80s. Yeah, it might have been the late '70s, early '80s, right? And I had a store on Main Street, Vinny Haven. And one day, this person walks in my store, her and this guy. And I looked at the person, I said, I know that person. And I'm thinking I know her. I'm thinking I know her from college, hanging out and everything else, and people in college. And we're walking around the store, and I'm saying, can I help you? We were talking and everything, and I'm trying to open up to find out if she'd say,
Right.
you're so-and-so, right? So I had the radio on. And all of a sudden, she started singing. And I said, oh, no. And she grabbed my arm and said, yeah, it was Diana Ross.
Wow.
You know, and I said to myself, I thought I knew you from college, and I hugged her, right? The guy standing in the door walking around who was with her was Gene Simmons.
Are you
Right?
serious?
So I said to myself, we laughed and talked, and because I thought it was one of the kids I went to school with. The next day, I'm out there, and she's at the Patisserie. It was a little restaurant next door. And she's sitting by herself having coffee. And I'm out there, and she said, come on over, having coffee with me. So we sat down and we talked. But the thing that she liked, she said, I like because I can just be here and be myself. You know, and the thing about it, people like yourself, who are always running and people are always pulling at you, and you got to do this, that, and the other. It's a place that you can just say, I'm going to the inkwell, I'm going to put my feet in the water, and I'm just going to chill.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm going to walk around the park. I'm going to go get an ice cream over at the place there. And the thing about it, island people. Now, island people, I can say, and those people that have come to the island for long periods of time won't bother you.
It's just
But I can't say that
just-
other people won't
it's just a-
recognize you and say, can I have your autograph?
And if they do, that's fine. But I just like the pace. I love being by the water. So if I'm
yeah.
surrounded by water, I'm very happy. I go from the Inkwell, I go up to Aquina, I go to
Aquina,
the,
yeah.
I love to go up there. I like to go to Menensa, is it?
Menemsha.
And Menemsha and pick up a lobster or two. And, you know, I come here and I know what I want to do. I know what shops I want to
Right.
visit. I know what I want to look at. And I can just do it. And if I want to sleep in late,
Yeah.
and, you know, the air is clean.
Let me tell you something,
the
this
weather's
air will
great.
knock you out.
Oh, my God.
I've got people that came here, they come here and say, man, I feel drugged. I said, that's that salt water. I said, you come into the freshest air possible. That salt water makes you feel like you're drugged or
It's
something.
incredible. So I just, and it has a lot of history, a lot of legacy of our ancestors. So I feel a spiritual
Right,
pull here to my spirit, and it allows me to just exhale and regroup, and then I'm ready to go back to wherever it is I'm going, New York or
How
even
much
home.
time
So
do you give yourself off, though?
as much
know.
as I can.
Yeah, but
It's hard.
It's
but
hard.
like this is my
How
second
often
trip.
do you say no? I don't want
Yeah,
to do this.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's your profession, and it's your income, and the more that you're visible, the more
the better it
better
is,
it is,
of course.
you know what
of
I
course.
mean?
But this year I was lucky. I got to come up in July and spent a week just basking
Chilling.
in the sun and looking like this. No makeup and
Okay.
just being all natural, eating good food and communing with friends and nature. And then I knew I was coming back for the music fest this week, so it was a blessing to be able to come twice and really experience
The
that.
music fest is when? It's,
Tonight it
tonight?
starts. It's going to be from tonight till the 1st.
Okay.
It is at Union Chapel.
Right.
My performance is tonight. We
Okay.
start at 6. I go on at 8.
Okay.
It is the Martha's Vineyard Jazz and Blues Music Summer Fest.
All
and
right.
closing out Labor Day weekend here
It's gonna be
in
jammed.
Oak Bluffs. People need to come get their tickets. There are tickets available. I'm sure you can walk up as well. I am remiss because I don't have that piece of paper to tell us where to go if we want to order them online. I'm sure
Well,
you can.
I'm trying to look
but
here, and it
just
says
come down
here-
to the
you
Union
know,
Chapel
you
at
just
6
go to
o'clock.
Union Chapel and you can get the ticket.
You can get
get
'em.
They have a
have a QR code.
A QR code there if you want to push that. But if you went to Union Chapel,
And some other great artists are going to be there. We have a wonderful young lady, and I will say her name wrong, but I know her last name is Sandoval. Our coach is Sandoval Quartet. It's performing a young man named Samuelus, who I know from New York, is a wonderful vocalist. The String Queens, which I
Okay.
understand have been up here over the last
what are
few
the String
weeks.
Queens?
They're a wonderful group of African American sisters that play chamber music as
Okay.
well as their versions of how they have taken the classics because they are violin and
Right,
cello
right,
based
right.
and just put a whole new spin on it. And if you want to see something wonderful and something unique, please see the String Queens. What I don't know is what night everyone is on, but I am tonight closing out at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
But we start at 6. I don't know the run of show, but please come. And we also have a wonderful female orchestra that I've worked with several times, here included, called Sage. And they are fabulous. And so, it celebrates women, it celebrates.
According to here, we have the String Queens, we have Alyson Williams,
Woo.
and we have
Samuelus.
Sage, and Sandoval.
Yes.
Sandoval.
Our Sandoval Quartet. But listen, I want people obviously to come out and see us tonight, but make sure that if you're here for the rest of this weekend, that you support the Summerfest music series.
Is it anything, like I said, normally, sometimes people come up and donation to something. Is this just for the entertaining the people that are here? And I think that this type of thing, more of it should be done. In the summertime, we have a performing arts center at the high school. It seats 800. And all the acoustical things that people like you would need would be there. And, when you have that type of venue and you publicize it, plenty of parking, plenty of space and everything else, I think that, I'm not saying that Union Chapel isn't good, but I'm just saying that I think that people of your talent, I think the island needs that more and more throughout the summer. A lot of this comes in August.
Right, of course,
But
yeah.
we need it in July.
Well,
Parts of
if
June,
they
parts
look-
of July, August, and then parts of September.
Look me
Because
up.
people are still
I would
here.
come to Martha's Vineyard in the dead of winter if they asked me to. It's a beautiful place. The people are warm and supportive. And what it is, we just want, as you say, we want to be supported, to keep live music alive, to support the music. I did something here. One of the things I love about coming here as well, I did a very intimate setting. A friend of mine is the owner of Villa Rosa House.
Oh, yeah, Villa Rosa.
Valerie Mosley, and we did something at her home a couple of years ago in her parlor, along with her wrap balcony, with Nat Adderley Jr. And it was myself and Nat, and we played and sang great songs, standards, R&B classics, and so on and so forth. And we were coupling to raise money at that point for, or trying to put something together with the Boys and Girls Club of America.
Right.
I don't know whatever happened with the whole thing, but they had brought us in to be the entertainment. So there's so many levels of those kinds of things that can be done here. And I think I know myself, and I think I can speak for many other artists, would love to come if we're just invited to come up to Martha's Vineyard, be it at the larger venues, the medium venues, or people's parlors.
How do people get in touch with people like you? Because, or people that like you, and then other people to come up, for a particular fundraiser or whatnot. You know what I mean? I can remember years ago, Natalie Cole was a good friend of mine. We went to college together. And the hospital was doing their major fundraiser. And she did a tremendous, down at Ocean Park there. They had the big screen and everything, and she came out and she did her thing, and the park was loaded, plus all the houses around. And naturally she got paid, but the idea, you brought Natalie Cole to the vineyard.
Someone of that caliber. Absolutely.
And then, the funds, the money that was raised helped the hospital in their building the new addition to the hospital, you know what I mean? So to have people like that, to have people like your caliber to come and to raise and say, it costs you this much to have her come, we're going to charge our tickets at this much, this is what we're going to raise, we're going to get a full house, and it doesn't. Because people will come.
They will come out because they want it. There's
for good entertainment, they will come.
They will come out. Well, if you want to reach me, you can find me through Staccato Management, and you can find them online, Staccato Management, and my manager's name is Dahlia Mignette. And if I could remember her phone number, the phone, everything's in the phone now. We're online, yes, Staccato Management. I'm not that hard to find. Matter of fact, just come on down to Union Chapel. You can give me a card.
Okay.
It's just that easy, and especially in a setting like this where you can meet someone and transition business or transact business. It's different than like if we were in New York. You can't just walk up on somebody all the time, what have you. But I implore you to come if
where are you going
like me
from
to
here?
Come back. From here, let's see. I will be going home for a couple of days, and then I'm going to be. What will I be doing? I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. I'll be receiving an award. A magazine that I did the cover of last year called She Exists is doing an awards ceremony to just pay honor to various artists and their achievements, and they'll be honoring me. What am I doing? Trying to get ready to go to Amsterdam. I'll be in Amsterdam the first week of October doing a show, and I haven't been there in many years, so I'm looking forward to going back. And then gearing up for the holidays. I also produce shows. So I'll be doing some production. I have a couple of shows of my own, Soul Palooza and Diva Palooza, which are concert series. And I've just entered into a partnership with a couple of other investors. And so we're looking forward to putting together a really great Thanksgiving holiday situation, which will not only be quote unquote a party with a purpose, because we will be giving to families during the holidays that are not fortunate and cannot, sustain. So we're trying to help them. And then Christmas, going into New Year's, we're planning a big New Year's brouhaha.
You're busy.
So I am trying to stay busy.
I don't know when you're going to take your next vacation, but
when I do, I'll take it here.
Okay.
I'll take it here, but I hope that I get to see everyone come down to Union Chapel tonight. So we start at 6 o'clock, 6 to 9. I go on at 8 with the group Sage, and it's going to be wonderful. You'll have 2 more nights to enjoy it and support the Summer Fest.
The next time you come back to the Vineyard, remember us.
I certainly
will. Always
will.
have an invitation on Tank Talk.
Thank you
always
so much.
To come back and enjoy yourself, and anything that we can do, we'd be willing to help.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and thank you for tuning into Tank Talk. Until next time, this is your host, Bob Tankard, saying good evening.